Alright, so welcome back to this creative monster design tutorial series, and in this part we are going to continue the sculpting process on this nice little monster guy right here, which should be pretty well. We're still only using Zbrush for the sculpting, and it's pretty straightforward what we're doing, and just continuing straight off where we left off last time. So let's get right into it as we do. So starting off where I did leave you, we are working on this little pouch thing right here. I'm kind of right now adding some sort of wrinkles into the middle of it just to make it seem even more like it's had movement, you know, inflicted on it. And also now I'm realizing that the little fat flap thing I added a bit ago, I didn't really like it, so I went over it with the Damien Brush and ended up kind of semi-removing it. Although obviously it's still kind of there, but the little shape it brings along with it, I think it actually looks quite nice, so I'm going to keep that for a while. Here I'm going in trying to make it this little, the bottom part of this, kind of the part that connects with the rib cage part. Make it bulge out a bit, kind of differentiate the two different shapes, you know, even more. And now I'm going in with the Damien Brush again, and doing more of these kind of muscle strands, or you know, whatever. So, you know, these pouches are something that, ironically enough, aren't actually shown that much in the final model because of the tail thing that you might see at the start there. But I do spend a lot of time on them because I had a lot of fun. So you know, that's fine. So now we're looking around the model, seeing how things are going, and they're going quite well. Saving it again, and I don't know if I mentioned this in the last part, but I do save these models in incrementals, and it's very important that you do so as well when you're modeling, because yeah, as I say in pretty much every video, Zbrush and all other 3D software has a tendency to crash when you've, you know, done enough work on a model. And if you just have one file, that file might get corrupt, and therefore you might lose everything and have to redo it, or just don't do it at all, which is not very good. If you're doing any kind of serious work, you really do need to start, you know, working in intervals. Here I'm just going to add some really kind of odd details to the little center bit here, utilizing X-symmetry to my advantage here as I do, and just making it a bit ripply, I guess, just make it look like flesh. I kind of, with this model, I kind of had an idea of that it was meant to be kind of layered, with a kind of skin layer at the middle, and then on top of that, kind of rib cage, you know, bone elements, and then beneath the skin layer is kind of this really fleshy, meaty, organic surface, which you'll see what I mean by that exactly when I start adding the tail. Here I'm going to end with the Damien Brush again, using this brush a lot, and differentiating again the kind of where the rib cage starts and ends, and kind of how they connect. So, because obviously the rib cage is not just taped on there, it's actually part of the monster's body, so it's only logical that it has some sort of kind of skin stretching by the ends and beginnings of it. So, let's see what we're doing right here. We're looking around the pretty model. And I think I changed the material here too. Material-wise, it tends to differ for me model to model, really. Some models I prefer some materials, and others I prefer others. It's kind of just up to personal preference more than anything, and generally you do want something that really does display a lot of detail on it though, and that doesn't have too big a cavity map already on it. Like this one I have right now actually has a cavity map already kind of in it, which makes all the protruding and kind of detail areas look even more detailed than they actually are, which is something that's important to take note of. But the one I have right now isn't too bad. So what you see I did there was I want to make these really kind of big changes in the little fold there. So what I did was I lowered my subdivision level to a lesser degree, and now I'm going in with the standard brush and the inflate brush, stuff like that, to really differentiate what forms I have. Because really forms are, when you're at a really high subdivision level, forms get tougher and tougher to manipulate, and that's why the loveliness of Zbrush allows us to change our subdivision levels at a fly. And you know, you need to make use of that. So here I'm going, you know, adding folds and stuff, which is very easy with the standard brush. Now I went up to the, I think, highest subdivision level, yeah, and I'm going to smooth everything out. So you can see that because we did work on it in a lower level, everything kind of is a bit bubbly, and we just have to go in with the smooth brush and kind of fix that. So I'm kind of adding some stretch skin here, and I'll change the material as well, just to see how that looked. I think I prefer the other one though, so I keep that. And we can just try fix things here. Now I'm adding an indent there because I kind of that just makes it look more like it's folded over, and it looks more organic. Really, I want to emphasize the organic nature of this model a lot because it really is truly meant to be very organic. Here I tried something out that I didn't like, so I agonizingly go through and undo each one separately. And remember, this is like times 3 speed, so you can imagine how slow that was, you know, in real time. But yeah, I realized very quickly that this is not something that's viable. This actually just looks like complete arse. So I will indeed go and remove that right now, in fact. Yeah, you're going to have to see me painfully undo these one by one. And yeah, I don't actually think I have enough undos here, so I'm going to have to go into a lower subdivision level and smooth it out, which I probably should have just done from the first place. It's kind of the thing you want to do if you have these sort of odd changes. Like you see there, I just went down into lower level and just smoothed it out. The same thing also applies to the smooth brush. It works better at the lower levels, so that's always interesting. Adding some more silhouette changes to the model, which I think works out quite well. And kind of going in and maybe I'm not doing the bottom right now. No, maybe not. I think I'm focusing more on these sort of straps, and I'm going to add in this little like textured feel to the flap up here, which with the clay tubes brush, because the pattern I want is really similar to that of the alpha that the clay tubes brush has. So I figured I'd just use that because it's easier. You can see what I'm you know trying to do right here is pretty obvious what it is, and it's you know, it looks pretty cool when it happens. So you know, I want that to work out. It kind of looks like scales, you know. So, going in again, adding more separation between the different scales with the, here you guessed it, the Damon stand brush, yes. It's got a lot of use in this series, and I don't like use it for every single model ever, for everything, but I mean, for this sort of organic stuff, it's actually very good. So here I'm adding the Damien standard brush sort of muscle strands.tm thing that I've used a lot of other times as well. I'm going to add it to the inside, which you might think that that's unnecessary, but actually this part of the inside is going to be shown. I'm not going to have an eye cover the entire inside bit, so it's worth giving that a bit of detail. Obviously, if you're doing like production work, you shouldn't actually spend a lot of time doing the areas that you know and it will never get seen. Say if it's a static prop like a box or a crate, you don't necessarily need to model the bottom side of it if you know it isn't going to move. If it is going to move, then yeah, sure, do it. But I mean, again, you don't want to waste a lot of time doing these unnecessary things. Personally, I'm doing it this project because I just downright like it. I want to have fun doing this model, so I did pretty much everything, and you know, that's just me, but obviously I'm not on a time limit or, you know, commission for anything, so this is just me having fun, which is actually a lot of 3D modeling overall. Now with Zbrush, for me. Going in and altering and smoothing some shapes here on the top, making it so all the scales aren't necessarily uniform with each other, and, you know, stuff like that. And I'm going to have to fix the little muscle strands here, I think right now, actually, make them more defined. And I kind of like leaving a little, like, I'm not sure if you can see that, but generally on these muscle strands, I tend to leave a bit of body left. I mean, kind of a bit of untouched flesh left between the two sets of strands. I'm not sure if you can see it on these. It might not be the best example of it on the top here, but I'll say it when it comes up. Because and then, you know, when I texture it, I'll make that a bit more pink color when the you know, surrounding colors are a bit red, and that kind of just adds to the fact that it's been stretched and kind of damaged. So because I like to think that this little egg here has been through a lot. I'll say yes, he's been through a lot, and you know, we need to respect that by giving him a lot of scarring and tissue problems, because we're just nice like that, aren't we, boys? Yes, we are. Yes, we are. So, yeah. Here, oh, yeah, you can see exactly really well what I mean here. You can see the fleshy bit in the middle there, and you can see exactly how it looks. This is actually a very good example. I didn't even plan this. But yes, this is what I meant by that. You can see the body of flesh in the middle there that kind of stands out. It kind of looks like the, you know, gums of your teeth. Is always what I kind of imagined it like. And it adds a bit of a human element, I think, to it. I mean, it's very important to if you want your organic models to be bit abstract, you need to keep in mind that you kind of want them to be semi-humanoid, at least some of the features, because we are humans and we don't know anything really else but being humans, so we relate to that. If you add a bit of human-looking organic elements, it's easier for the viewers to identify what it is. Like, I have the rib cage there, therefore, you know, people will kind of more relate to it, and the kind of gums-like parts as well. Now I'm adding a bit of irregularity here to the ends. I'm not entirely sold on it, to be honest. I'm going to do this later on with more, with higher surface detail, and, oh god. So, you know, it's not perfect right now, but I mean, it's doable. Just wanted something in there. Going into more defining these folds a bit more. Just, yeah, you'll see what brush I'm using there, and I'm not going to say it again. I've said it enough times here. I don't really like the look of this. This, I think, is not a good look for the front here, so I'm going to have to change that in a bit here, because this just looks a bit odd. I don't think these folds look natural. The folds are very important to get the right feel of, because right now, what you see here, what I'm doing, isn't really going to work out, because they don't feel natural. If you wanted to practice kind of doing folds, what I recommend is actually doing clothes. Mostly like kind of these semi-baggy jeans generally work really well if you want to learn how to do folds well, because there's so many folds on those things, and you kind of need to capture all of them to make them look realistic, and that's kind of what I've done. I haven't learned, obviously, all of it yet, because I'm not very great, but from the experience I have, that's what gave me the most kind of practice in doing so. Here I'm trying to kind of add some more of those strands in between these two bits. It doesn't actually work out because I'm using the wrong technique. If I did want this to happen, I would use another way of doing things, but in the end, it's probably for the better, because this doesn't look good at all. Here I'm trying the planar cat brush as well, which I am going to slowly realize isn't going to work for me, so trying out something else. You can see actually we've gotten quite far on this model. There I went to the flat column material just to check on the silhouette. This model, as it turns out, when it doesn't have the spine, it doesn't actually do a lot. I mean, the silhouette is pretty similar to what we had at the first place, which was a sphere, so it's not like it's not a major issue, the fact that, you know, the silhouette isn't super different, but you do want to put a lot of focus into it, because the silhouette is actually more important than one might think. And you can see what I'm doing right here. It doesn't need really explanation. It's pretty obvious. I think that it's, yeah, you can see I'm doing another one of those kind of fleshy sections. And I did have symmetry on for this. I think I'm going to remove one side of this, because this little detail right here, I think, is not something that's meant to be symmetrical. Again, another thing that's very, very obvious about the organic meshes is the fact that, you know, the details, it's not organic. No organic being is symmetric. I think I said organic first, but yeah, no organic being or organic thing is symmetrical. Actually, nothing really in this world is truly symmetrical, but that's beside the point. Nothing organical is born symmetrical. And, ooh, I'm adding the bottom here. I'm just adding a bit of texture to the bottom. The bottom is actually one of those cases where I really did like the clay tubes texture, so I just basically keep that. I put a little bit of emphasis into it, but that's basically it, because that really gives off the look at, like, damaged skin, and I figured it'd actually be sitting on the ground, you know, with that part of its skin, so I figured that skin would be really kind of leathery, really tough, kind of like hardened, say, if you're, you know, like the skin you get if you're, like, playing the guitar, and the skin you get on your fingers after that, like the thumb or whatever, so, you know, or the bass, I guess, works too. So, I was talking about something before. Yeah, organic creatures are never symmetrical, and you want to keep that in mind, and you want to kind of make that obvious in your model, that your creature is not symmetrical, because that makes it look a bit better. Even if it's just making a really obvious detail on one side that's really obviously not on the other side, even if it's something that's silly, it actually works very well. And you can see I did remove that little detail that I put in earlier, because I didn't think it looked nice. I think I'm going to add something similar to that later on. But that's later on, not now. So what we're doing here, changing the material. I do happen to change materials every once in a while. I don't like using the default Zbrush material, the red wax one, because again, that has a built-in cavity map, and the cavity map in that I find to be very distracting. So personally, I tend to do something like like a gray matte cap or something like that, just to make it look a bit easier. Here, I think I'm going in and oh yeah, now I'm adding the this the arm? No, this is the tail. I'm adding it right now. So you can see I'm going out of the little exhaust pipe right there, and I'm going to just use Z-spheres to kind of make this. And it's, you know, Z-sphere is another thing here that's very good, and very, very simple to use for these purposes. So all I'm doing is basing out kind of the shape of it, because obviously the tail is going to be pretty much cylindrical anyways, so I can just do it basically here, and then add a lot of detail on it afterwards. So obviously, I probably mentioned this, but the idea I had for the tail is that it basically looks like a human spine, because I think that looks kind of cool. I didn't in the end go super realistic on the spines, but I kind of tried the discs, like the spinal discs and all that. I tried to incorporate a bit of that into it. And the separated nature of the spine obviously is kind of what drove me into it, so I keep that. But it's not going to be super in-depth on how to do a spine. I'm not looking to do that, and so it's a bit more subtle than that, and it doesn't really look entirely like, you know, spine. It looks a bit different. And, you know, obviously I wanted to keep it looking different. I wanted this to look like its own entity, basically. I didn't want it to just look like a bunch of human bits, you know, stuck together with glue or sellotape. I wanted it to look like it was born this way and kind of really fluid. Fluid, I don't think is the right word to use that, but yeah. Obviously, you also want to consider that, actually, first of all, it's kind of cool to mention that when you do have these sort of two things, if you overlap them, it makes them look so much more natural, like I'm doing here. Although I'm doing it a bit oddly here, but yes, if you try overlapping something like a spine or, you know, an arm or something like that, or two legs, or a tail like this, which is wrapping around something, if you overlap them with each other, they look much more natural for whatever reason. I'm not sure why, but they do. Probably because that's the way they probably lie in the real life. So here I find my final shape. It kind of looks like a shoelace or something like that, and I'm going in and smoothing it out. Made it a Polymesh 3D, which I have a tutorial on how to do, you know, on my channel if you want to check that out. And you know, self-promoting, oh yeah. But yeah, I'm just going in and smoothing it out a bit and subdividing it, and then I'm going to add all the detail in. I don't think I have a ton of the spinal, like, sculpting put in, because it's a lot of repetitive stuff, but I have the basis, I think, in. So we can see here I'm going in with the clay tooth brush again and just adding the sections here. Which obviously this would have been a bit easier if I didn't put them on top of each other, but as it turns out I did, so, you know, life is life, I guess. This is obviously very... now I kind of realize that I want to differentiate the shapes. I don't want to just keep them on kind of these O shapes. So you can see I kind of added a bit of muscles. I kind of... oh god, sorry. Kind of the deltoid shape, that's kind of the shape I was going for with some of these, and then I revert back to the standard kind of band shape. You know, generally just anything to mix it up. As uniform as I do want this to be, having a bit of differentiation in it is not bad, it's not terrible, and I think, in fact, it's quite good to have, that's why I did it. So... yes, doing this a bit, and you can see that this is kind of a lot what's going to be this tail work, a lot of repetitive stuff, the same thing over and over again on every single, you know, spinal section. If I had a way to if I had a way to automate that, I would use it, but I don't. So, and this is obviously on a very, very low subdivision level, so it really doesn't make that much difference when you do subdivide it. It kind of looks a bit like a worm or something like that right now, or something else a bit naughtier, but. Yes, it gets into the second, or into higher subdivision here, and it starts looking a bit doughy, but what do we have then? To solve with the Damien Standard brush! Yeah! Yeah, I mean, it is I mean, even though I kind of mock it right now, but yeah, it is very good at separating these little different bits and sections, so... yeah, not too much to say here. What I'm doing right now is obviously defining the separations between the little scale like sections of the spine tail thing, and you know, working out pretty well. Obviously it looks very doughy right now, but that's why we have stuff like the Extreme Dynamic brush and similar things like that to kind of clean it up afterwards and make it look sharp and presentable. I know I personally don't look sharp and presentable right now, if you wish to know, and I'm probably not going to look sharp and presentable in a lot of time, so yeah. However, the spine is kind of looking like it is. I keep like mixing it up with like spine or tail or arm. I'm not sure why I'm even calling it arm. So you can already see by the size and the placing of the spine that yes, it does obscure a lot of the detail on the original mesh, just because it does that. But whatever. I just wanted it in there because it looked nice. Here I'm actually adding in a bit of a I'm kind of increasing the distance between the scales and make it look quite because I want another one to do those kind of fleshy sections. I kind of figured that that this tail would be kind of really, it wouldn't have any skin on it. It would just be like a really fleshy muscle substance that's covered with kind of armor, or skeleton obviously, but kind of that works like armor. So these kind of plates, and underneath the plates you can catch a glimpse of the organic nature of the spine. I kind of like that look, the mixed look of bones and flesh kind of on top of each other. I was about to say mechanical there, but this does not look mechanical at all. It's more, I guess, it's kind of in that direction, but it's not really mechanical at all. It's in fact organical, obviously. So almost done increasing the separation here. Now I'm going in with the alternative mode, holding up Alt on the damage damage to make it, actually draw stuff in and making it sharpen these edges up, which it does quite well. And going to do this on most of these, probably all of them actually. And we go from there. It's a good way to kind of make this defined as really hard kind of plates. So that's what I do for most of those, and that works out quite well. You might say that I could actually hide some bits and actually model on the sections that are on top of each other. Like say, this tail, obviously there are two different bits of the tail that sits on top of each other, and therefore hiding the bottom bit of the top portion and the top bit of the bottom portion. So what I could do is, because there's actually mesh there, I could hide the bottom bit and kind of paint what's underneath there, and then hide the top bit and sculpt what's underneath there. But I could do that, but since I know I'm not animating this, obviously if I did animate this, I wouldn't actually make the spine curl around the mesh from the start. What I would do is have it straight out, and then just have the rigging and the animation kind of control how it wraps around. This is just meant to be still, so I didn't really bother with doing any of that. Because whilst I do like to make a lot of bits that are hidden, I'll sculpt those in, that's a bit extreme, because this is what I would say the most dull part of the sculpting process, just because of the nature of it, because it's very similar all over, and it's making one detail over and over and over again, and that's the way it's been with this bit, through the entire process, really. Even retopologizing it was very slow, polypainting it was even slower, it's, like that. I'm going in with the pinch brush here because I figured that some of the distances here were a bit sharp and a bit uneven, so I just going in with the pinch brush and making it a bit sharper and a bit more, natural looking, really. Eventually I'm going to add in the strands of the fleshy details and stuff like that, but I'm not going to do that just yet. So it kind of looks like a roll type thing now, and again, what I'm doing right here is going in with the trim dynamic brush and kind of cleaning it up. You can see some of the issues the trim dynamic brush has there when it comes to kind of overlapping geometry. It kind of messes up a bit, because I think I assume it kind of defaults to the bit of the mesh that's actually been below that bit, so it kind of makes a big hole when you try to use it, which is a bit annoying, but it's fine. Obviously, since this is, not metal, this is a bone, I don't want it to be super sharp, so I'm not gonna go in with something like the planar cut brush. I'm leaving that out of it for now, because that gives a really, it does give a really mechanical and sharp look to it. It gives a bit of too sharp look, which is something I want to avoid here. But yeah, this is actually really fun going with the trim dynamic brush, I'm not gonna lie. It's it gives off such good results so quickly that it's no doubt very entertaining to work with. You can see that already the exhaust pipe we put in there is being set to good use, so that is all good, bros. So yeah, you can see I cut a bit there. What I'm doing right now is adding the fleshy bits, so you can see what it is there. All it was the damage damage up and down on all of these different sections. And I think I'm going to do another cut here in a minute, but because this is really repetitive, I'm doing this between every single of these, and it did take a long time, so I'm not going to force you to sit through and watching this entire thing. But what you see is the resulting look here, which I think does look very well. When you do these strands, you want to keep in mind that you want to make them kind of uniform, kind of straight in a line. to make it look like they're really kind of separated, I guess. Because if you just do them all over the place, they look like just random scratches or something like that, and it just looks bad. So I tend to use the kind of top of the plates there, or the discs there, as a guideline, and then work from there. Now I'm going to do a cut here because this is getting very boring to watch. So I think it's cut anyways, but yeah, you can see I'm going in and doing it in all these different sections. And now you can see what I added right there. I added the little middle bits there too, and I didn't go into that because I added them very stupidly. I did a very dumb thing to add them. But yes, so I cut that out a bit as well. I mean, it's very easy to add those. Obviously, you should just add it like a cube and then duplicate it alongside the mesh. What I did was actually more or less, you know, inflated those bits, which kind of messed the entire geometry up a lot. So don't do that. What you should do is just make a cube and kind of duplicate that alongside the spine. You know, make it look like that. Now I'm doing the arms. Or I say the arms, but I guess, yeah, I guess they are arms on the back here of the model, which if you looked at the turntable at the start of the model, you'll see what they are. So, you know, it's more like fingers than arms. You know, the finger idea I played around with at the beginning, right at the beginning of the sculpting process. I kind of wanted to give a bit of that because fingers are gross. So, I'm adding that in with the Z-spheres. I end up having 3 fingers on the back here. I'm not entirely sure why they're on the back. This doesn't actually make any sense if you think design-wise. I mean, it's not very practical having these fingers at the back here. I don't think it helps, you know, killing any sort of animal to make it eat. I don't think that helps at all. But it looks nice, right? Yes, it does. It looks nice, so I'm keeping it there. Actually, now it looks more like an antenna than anything, and this could be the digital egg. You might use it to call your friends, or buy a pizza, or something like that. You know, the digital egg monster of hell. It's brilliant. It's a new project. I'm actually going to launch it. It is, it's in the works, if I say so, if I can say so myself. So, I'm keeping it a bit more fat. I'm not actually going to attach or combine the two meshes in any way. Not even in the retopologizing stage, because I really couldn't be honest. So, I'm keeping them separate. I scaled the bottom bit up a bit, just make it look like it sits in the mesh a bit more. And what I am going to do here, I think, is I'm going to make 1 finger and then duplicate it 2 more times and then rotate them a bit. I'm not going to bother making 3 individual fingers. The finger, I think I'm going to cut a lot of the sculpting out as well. I'm going to show the start of it though. It's going to be a lot of clay tubing and then a lot of trim dynamicing, which is something that you've seen a lot of already, and it's not going to teach you too much. I did want to just kind of keep in mind sort of basic finger anatomy, kind of have the bones kind of where they would be, and add, you know, the knuckles, which is what I'm doing here right here, which is really kind of obvious, not actually looking too much like a knuckle right now, but kind of the separating bits right there. And I added this finger would actually have 3 knuckles on it, so it's obviously interesting. I wanted kind of a single bone going up through the top of the finger. Because I figured that looked nice and that looked kind of natural and logical, it looked like as well. And now I'm kind of adding those skin folds here. It looks very messy right now, but I'm going to clean it up later, obviously. I'm adding those skin folds to get kind of underneath the fingers, if you know what I mean, those skin folds. Can I add those? Obviously, this is kind of like a finger, but a really extreme version of it, and I kind of want the entire thing to feel natural, even though we humans don't actually, contrary to some popular belief, we don't have any muscles in our fingers. It's kind of just tendons and stuff like that. While that is the case, I kind of added a bit of musculature on this little finger right here. So not entirely realistic, obviously, but I don't think people mind too much. And you know, that's all fine and well. I'm probably going to go in with the you know, tame and standard brush here a bit. And this is just going to be a running joke here during the sculpting section. So I'm just going to keep saying, no matter what brush I use, it's the Damien Standard brush, and it's going to be my own in-joke, and I'm going to laugh at it alone in my home, and I'm going to not have any friends ever. Yes, that is the plan. That is a great plan. Don't mess with my plan, yo. So, I've actually jumped quite a few subdivision up here, so it's actually up to, you know, 25,000 polygons already, which is not too much, but I mean, it's not that little, knowing the size of the finger. You know, so, and obviously you don't want to keep, whilst poly count is very, and you can see there I finished the first finger. I cut to it because it was very obvious what I did, so I added a bit of, I didn't actually do it too much, you know, muscle stranding and stuff like that on the fingers, because I kind of wanted to keep the idea that there aren't too many muscles. So here I'm using the Sub Tool Master, which is a native native, I think, plug into ZBrush. I think it comes with the default now, it might not. If it doesn't, you can get it from free on the Pixelogic website. It's very good. It has mirroring options, which I use right there, and you can do a bunch of different stuff with it, and it's just overall a pretty ballin' piece of software, yo. So here I'm going to basically duplicate it 3 times, each time moving and rotate it a bit to make it look a bit more individual. And for this, I'm actually going to deform it a bit, like that. I know, it's very, very crazy. In the end, I think I actually just end up retopologizing one of the fingers, then just not caring about the other 2, and then duplicating at the end the one finger across 3 times. I think that's the way I did it, because since I did deform that middle bit, I can't actually just use the same mesh on those when I retopologize it, because that looks a bit weird and it doesn't really work out. So here I'm going in, doing the under section here. I'm going to kind of make it look like these fingers are attached. So I'm going to make a bit of modeling here on the, or sculpting here on the, underneath them, making them kind of look like they're inside of the skin. And I'm pushing it up from beneath, if you wish. Again, using the clay tubes brush, very, very simple. Here I'm kind of trying to, trying out a leathery type look to it. It doesn't really end up working like that. I'm going to change it around a lot before the final project, or final results. There we are. And yeah, using a little smooth. You can see already that the actually you can see I'm kind of emulating the continuation of these bones, the bones on top of the fingers. I'm kind of emulating the continuation of these with the sculpt. It obviously doesn't actually happen. If I wanted it to look more realistic, I would actually continue the skeleton or the bones, because with the finger mesh, but I didn't really care for it too much. I just wanted a simple type thing. And again, this is actually, it's worth keeping in mind that this part will probably never be shown too much in the render, because obviously the spine tail thing is going to be on top of it, so you're only really going to see the fingers and not how the fingers are attached to the body. But this stuff is really fun to do. I'm not going into the damage general to kind of just generally fuck things up, if you know what I mean, mess it up how it looks and stuff like that. So it does look quite nice. So yes, I'm adding these, and you can see that just naturally there I got one of those skin sections right in the middle of those 2 strands, or the tendon sections right there, because it looks very cool like that. And now I'm going to, again, differentiating the bones from each other, making them stand out a bit, or making them look different. Now I'm going in with the damage general again, doing kind of a really rough detail and then smoothing it out to make it look like there's this kind of skin stretching there. It's very subtle, because I removed most of it because I didn't really like the look. But while it is very subtle, it does still exist, so it's worth considering that. The bit of, irregular detail here, I think I turned symmetry off. Yeah, I have symmetry off for this entire section, actually, because obviously the fingers aren't symmetrical. Well, they are geometry-wise, but they aren't, in placement-wise, so I can't really have symmetry on when working on these sections. I'm still kind of hell-bent on getting this planar line technique to work. It doesn't actually... I did realize in the end what I did wrong here, but, it works out fine here. Just humor me for a bit here, will you? Watch me completely mess everything up. I know, it's so silly, Seb. But yes, so what we have here is... this is actually very similar to what I did. Now I ended up doing was keep the big planar line results here and kind of make fleshy bits on them. You can see I'm cutting to a bit when I have more done, and it looks very much like, the other bits. And I'm going in and defining the little bone-like elements here a bit more, making them look really flat and really nice. I think it looks very cool like that. And obviously I did those just with the clay tubes brush, and the texture you can see on them is, again, the clay tubes brush, just its natural kind of noise. So now I have the bottom, or the back down here. I did add a bit of folding and kind of organic stuff here. Now I'm going in, this is about the end of the sculpt here. So what I'm doing now is adding some high surface detail. I could use the native ZBrush noise and just apply that, but I kind of like doing it like this. Just go in with the drag rectangle tool and the standard brush, and just playing around with the different alphas. What is worth considering with ZBrush, there are a lot of alphas you don't have loaded in when you get ZBrush. If you just look in the alphas directory in the ZBrush folder, you'll find there are a lot that you don't actually have loaded in. And you can just check the lightbox. Actually, they're all in the lightbox. But they're just not in the alpha panel. So what you need to do is import those, and you have a lot of really cool ones that I'm mostly using right here, because they give a lot of really nice detail. a lot of this isn't going to come through because of the resolution of the normal map, but again, I'm kind of a perfectionist, I guess. Not really, I don't think I actually am, but for stuff like this, I just like doing every little bit and making it look as nice as I can in the sculpting stage, and, you know, keep sticking with that theme, so... yeah, I'm just gonna add this all over the model. This is kind of the bit where I have a lot of fun. You might not be so surprised to know, and you know, generally, I mean, obviously, the entire sculpting process for me is fun, but this is kind of the most fun because this requires no skill at all. It's just kind of random, and me dragging a lot and making it look nice. I think I'm going to cut to a later bit here. I think maybe I do keep it though. I'm not sure, but yeah, so not too much explaining. I'm obviously not using the same alpha, obviously, all the time. I'm kind of switching between them, and now when I have that done, I'm trying out some renders, just quick renders here, not barely even change any settings, just making the shadow look a bit nicer, which you know, does look a bit nicer. For some reason I have it frozen at this frame for a while. I'm not sure. I think I'm saving it. Yeah, I'm saving it. That's why it takes so long. What you want to keep in mind when you're working with a high detail model like this is to save at a low poly stage, because that makes saving a bit more safe. But yes, that was this video, and I'll thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video, where we're going to UV unwrap, or I'm going to retopologize, and then no, actually, I'm going to UV unwrap. I'm not going to show you the retopologize stage, because we've already covered that in the tree modeling series, so if you want to know about that, check that out. So, yes, bye, thanks for watching.